Okay, so now it's 2 minutes after the hour. I think we'll get going, and whoever comes in afterwards, it's all good.
I feel
So
like, oh, sorry.
no, go
Can you
ahead.
see
Hi,
me?
Tina. Yes, I
Oh,
can.
I'm
You're all
good.
good.
Okay,
You're all
thanks.
good. Excellent. So the idea that I have, and I certainly have received inputs in this process, is I did speak to some other people who gave me some best practice ideas about doing virtual memorials. The first one is structure. It's not because, again, we want to to be too um, too anal in this process. But again, if we had 50 conversations going on at once, it really wouldn't be well done. So I'm going to make a couple of brief remarks on the next slide, and then my dad will speak, and my dad will get a clear cue as to when he can do that. And then Jennifer will speak. Then Mike Lomasney will be talking about James's high school days, and then Emerson, who will be talking mainly about the number of years where he spent in Florida together in the context of the racing era. Then we've invited Pastor Felipe Assis, who has indeed been a big part of James's life in recent months slash probably about a year or so. Indeed, when I was in Florida a week and a half ago, I went down to Key Biscayne. It was important for me for many reasons to actually see the place where James spent a lot of time, where Emerson has called home for a while, and then, of course, where this church is. When I was in Florida, I also went down to the raceway, which is where James was, just starting a new job. Then we'll talk briefly about how we want to preserve his racing legacy, and then Eleanor and Olivia are going to read a poem that has been prepared. So with that, let's get started here. So first and foremost, as you can tell, my voice is a little cracky. I apologize for that. I'll do my very best to speak clearly. So there are many remarks I could make, and I wanted to share three kind of chapters. I wouldn't call them stories per se, but chapters. James, who loves animals, James, the dear brother, and James, who loves to go fast and live a wild life on every level. And when I think about all the dogs that we have had when we grew up together, when I also think about um, the various other animals that he's interacted with, whether it's at Uncle Pete's place up in Vermont, that's the first picture on the upper left, whether that's also the dogs that he's interacted with in Florida. He's always loved animals. It's something that's always been part of his life, and we'll certainly miss that aspect of him being so kind to animals and loving them and all of that. When James and I spent time together before I moved away to France, indeed, there were so many trips and experiences that were memorable. There's too many to say, but I wanted to highlight two in particular. So it was the summer of 2001, and we went to San Francisco. So it was before September. And we went to San Francisco. So my dad took us out there because he had a great job in San Francisco. And we went to a place called the Sears Racetrack. And I got to see, and there's a picture on that on page 12. And it was the first time I actually got to see actual real racetrack and to have a sense of James's initial interest in this world. And boy, obviously, since then, it's pretty clear that that's what he's become very passionate about. And just watching his eyes light up when he was at the track and watching the cars go by and talking to people and all of that. So again, there's lots of trips, lots of memories, but I remember that in particular. Um, and then when James came over to France for my wedding, of course, we had many families there, Uncle Carrie and many others, but James absolutely brought another dimension of life, happiness, and jokes. We all know that James never took himself too seriously, and he really took things, he made it such a light and airy trip. He got to know Arno and all the brothers and sisters of Sibyl. He really he really complimented that extremely well. Yeah.
And then you see us in Hawaii, which whenever you want me to talk about that.
Yeah, that'll just be in about 10 seconds. So I didn't mean to joke, I mean a story. So anyway, so indeed, and last but not least, of course, is James and I were super tight when we were little. When he turned 14 and I was 18, he could easily beat me up. He would easily able to hold me down for punches, and I couldn't do anything about it. He was stronger than me, and of course, when he was graduating from skateboard, then to bicycle to three-wheeler, as you can see, three-wheeler to quad, quad to dirt bike to motorcycle, I could never keep up. I always tried to. But he was always a leader in that space, and I did do my best to catch up. But indeed, he always held the torch high. So again, there's so many stories to tell, but I just wanted to share those three. I'm now clicking to slide 4. Does everybody see slide 4?
Yes.
Great. So now, Dad, feel free to speak, please.
Okay. Is there a window where I can see myself, or can you see yourself, or how's that work?
1 second.
Yep.
Well, if you start speaking, then
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I'll be looking at you. That's fine. I mean,
yeah.
basically, I welcome everybody in the Holmberg family and all those that could make this unique time, if you will. James was a very unique person, and I was very fortunate as a father to have somebody like James. He was unlike any person I think I've ever met. And just to give people a little color, because I know your time is valuable, but I thought of 2 or 3 things that might tickle your thoughts, so to speak. So we're lo and behold, James, I think, Billy, you might say, I don't know if you were in college or prep school, but somewhere I think it's around you guys were about 14, 15 years old. And I took the whole family out to Hawaii. So we go to Hawaii and, I obviously was a golfer. And we have a photograph there of James, Billy, and myself playing actually at the same tournament that was 2 weeks ago in the island of Maui. And we played golf there till our wrists were rough or whatever. And good old James, he'd hit it just as far as he possibly could. He couldn't care less where it went, but he just wanted to make sure he just walloped that ball, and he had a ball. So we finished the night at the Maui Sheraton or wherever it was. Make a long story short, Billy says, "Hey, Dad, let's go up to the top of the mountain in Maui." I said, "Boy, that's a long trip." He says, well, let's have some fun." Lo and behold, who rides up but James, some red Corvette, car. And he asked Billy and I to get in. We all went roaring up the mountain on that island in Hawaii and seeing all the things that are a wonderment. I mean, literally it's 14,000 feet and it's cold and it's this and that. And James just loved the whole thing. He was the main driver, drove a little bit beyond his exceeded, time that I would be comfortable with him, but lo and behold, he made it. And that's what I'm trying to get to is the sad part of what's happened with James. I can't remember him ever being in a major accident. I mean, he has had ups and downs. He has had torn ligaments, but I've never seen him have a major, major situation like it was in the last week or two. So with that said, obviously all of us here are aware of what happened and how it happened, and which is a very sad situation. And all of us are, beyond any kind of remorse or whatever. It's just taken us by storm. But I will tell everybody a fun thing. And that was James, he went to different colleges. He went to University of Rhode Island, then he went to another school in Boston, and he found himself out in Henniker, New Hampshire. And that was his last year in college. Lo and behold, I guess, the college is over after about, kind of like April timeframe, maybe it's a little earlier. Make a long story short, he says, "Dad, I got 2 of my buddies, and it's the number one thing I've ever wanted to do in my life, and I want to take my dirt bike all the way up to Canada." I said, "James, that's kind of risky." He says, "Yeah, but he says, "Dad, but I love risk." So off James goes with his buddies. They go from Massachusetts to Vermont to New Hampshire to Canada. You name it. And then they drove all the way back. And lo and behold, he had C+ marks, but he was able to graduate and actually get finished with his college experience. But what I found incredible about it is how James is just his love of what he loved, which is motorcycles, motor vehicles, you name it. He just loved the whole thing. He loved every minute about it. And I don't know, as parents, whether we should have applauded that or not, but he sure found lots of glee and happiness. So with that said, I have probably a lot of stories to tell you about James. One I would tell you, because it's really important, I'll take 1 minute. Billy was part of this. We built a home out in Southampton like 20 years ago. And I was finished playing golf at Shinnecock, and I'm jumping in the ocean, out near Montauk. And lo and behold, this great big, huge 4-wheel drive, massive size truck comes on, and it's James going up and down with the dunes, flying off the dunes on his motorcycle, or not his motorcycle, but on his truck. And I said, James, what are you doing here? He says, Dad, this is a ball. Come on, get in here. You won't believe this. So all I can say to you is I never knew how to respond to James. He was always unique. Fortunately, he never had a problem in terms of health and wellness or injuries. I mean, he's had few, but not many. And all I can say is we're going to miss James. He's a special person. And all I can say is thank you all for coming, and any thoughts you have, please let us know. With that, I'll turn it over back to Bill Jr.
Thank you, Dad. As I said as well, we have so many stories, just scratching the surface. We'll have a chance at the end to add a few more. But now I'd like to pass it over to Jennifer, if I can get the slide to move over to slide 5. Are we on slide 5 now, guys?
Yes.
Great. So Jennifer, I leave it to you to share what you'd like to share, please.
Okay, so when I first met James 5.5 years ago, this is the moment I can tell you when I really, really liked him. He kept talking about this condo that he had, and he kept, like, over and over, he's like, my condo, my condo, my condo. And he invites me over, and it looks like just an apartment. And I was curious, and I seriously asked him, I was like, what's the difference between a condo and an apartment? And his very sincere and serious answer was the ondo. And I tried really, really hard not to laugh because I just met him, but I was hysterical. And I only told him this probably 1.5 years later, and he did remember it. And I told him that's when I knew I loved you, because he had a way of making me laugh. And I mean, hours on the phone, he'd keep me laughing. And so that's how we met. For 5.5 years, I had the blessing of creating thousands of these little memories with James. And they're treasured memories of laughing until we were in pain, getting teary-eyed over cheesy songs, and our unconditional love for each other. We were best friends. I loved watching James interact with other people and with kids. He had a way of making people so happy through conversation or showing off how he could do flips and walk on his hands. And he just walked around with a smile and a very happy energy, and he wanted to share it with everyone. My 2 dogs adored James, and they could sense him driving down my street, and he could be houses away, and they would start freaking out. They would know that he's coming. And one of my dogs in particular, Luigi, had a very, very special bond with James. Luigi has very high anxiety, but James was very calming to him. And, we like to take Magnus and Luigi on walks together, and that's how we spent a lot of our time. He would give Luigi a new bandana every time he saw him. And it was like little things like that James would do to show his love and affection. So for me, what he would do is he would taste my food to tell if it was too hot, because I didn't like to burn the roof of my mouth. And then he would tell me when it was safe for me. He would put new socks in my sneakers for the next morning so that I didn't get dog hair all over my socks. He always checked the tire pressure on my car before I left to make sure I was safe, and he would want to know when I got home safely. And so those were the little things he did for me. And the last time I saw him, he actually gave me a dozen white roses, which, he wasn't so big on romantic gestures, but he did that just out of nowhere. There was no reason, just to say thank you for being in my life. And that was it's just a very special thing he did for me. He would say every day, pretty much every day I knew him, say that he was always trying to be a better James, that he would wake up each day and try to be a better James. And I was so proud of the new chapter he was starting in his life. And he was really doing so well. And along the way, we taught each other a lot. I now know a lot more about cars and boxing and MMA than I ever anticipated on knowing. I know who the fighters are. I know when the fights are coming. But I miss James more with each day that passes. We enjoyed each other's company more each day, and it was getting more exciting to start planning our future together. And the last thing is something James always told me was that he loved me and would protect me, and he had my back no matter what. And I don't think I ever really understood it at the time, but I just hope he continues to watch over me and everyone he loved. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Very well said. Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer. The next remarks are going to go back in time. We're going to have Mike Lomasney speak about his days, arguably during what we could call the high school years, the high school era. Back when James had a bit more hair, and in just different stories to tell back then. So, Mike, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes. And are we on the right slide, or did I press the wrong button here? Yep. I'm sorry. I pressed the wrong button. How about now?
So please forgive the formality in so far that I prepared remarks that needed to be written. It is an honor, to speak here today, and the words that follow, if they would allow, are the words of James' friends from the Northeast, from Cold Spring Harbor, where he was born and raised, right?
Yes.
This is Mr. and Miss Holmberg. There's really no words to console you for your loss, but all that are gathered here and sharing your grief. And I hope that provides a bit of comfort, at least for now. Billy, you lost your younger brother. That's a mountain that will be near you forever.
Yes.
Great strength and resolve in this time of need. And it's a testament to you and your brother, James. You guys are definitely Holmbergs. I wish your process of healing is swift, but I know it won't be, right? And I know you'll find solace in the wonderful life you've created in France and rely on the family that you've created to heal you as you have been relied upon to heal others. Jennifer, I pray that you'll be able to look at your time with James with happiness and fondness and love. I know that grief blankets these feelings, but one day the warmth will blow again. You know him better than almost anybody. The man that you loved, and with your life, you shared his spirit, and it's something very special that you share with James alone. And for you, I pray the darkness gives way to light. 2 weekends ago, I drove through Cold Spring Harbor, and it was a sunny, beautiful Saturday winter morning. And I passed an old captain's house near town, and I thought of James. I was unaware of the tragedy the night before. He had an apartment in that old little yellow captain's house in Cold Spring Harbor. It made me think of him, and I did for a good while. I thought well of him in Florida. I thought about the go fast nature of James, kicking up dirt into a crowd while laughing with a dirt bike, that sort of thing. But I also thought about his smile. I really did. And after I spoke to Billy, I started to really think about James. And we all know his appetite for adventure. And you give that kid something with an engine. He's not only on top of the world, but he was the first one to get there.
Bravo.
James was a good-natured and fierce competitor, but so that's a rare combination. And I'd be remiss not to mention that James was tough as nails. We know this, but he had more bravery than most. And sometimes I thought maybe he sought it out, but he would arise to occasions where bravery was needed. There was someone who needed to be protected or a situation outmatched until Holmberg took over. So he used this for good. And that's not often. I've always respected him for that. The Cold Spring Harbor was his home team, and to be honest, we were a little short-staffed on guys like him. And he made up for it in spades. And our little town of Cold Spring Harbor is literally safer because of. It's possible that I was good friends with him because to make sure that I stayed on his good side. But when we strip all that away, we're left with that smile, right? The charismatic glow. He was older than his years and kinder than his toughness and more gracious than others. He was more reliable and caring and fun and good old-fashioned nice. James at his core was a sweet and gentle person. So we're gathered here digitally, scattered around the world, and we all together thinking of that smile and the glowing spirit of James, and I believe within each of us right now, all over the country and all over the world, but most importantly, within our hearts. And I just wanted to say Godspeed to James.
Thank you, Michael. Yes, indeed, we are scattered around the world. It's not just me who's abroad. Today, Michael, I reconnected with Matt Galston, another Cold Spring guy. He lives in Denmark now. So just a reminder to all my US friends that we all know that I've been away for a long time, but other people do sometimes make decisions to follow adventures abroad. And so even from Little Cold Spring Harbor, other people have taken wing and done so. Brilliantly said. Thank you, Michael. Much appreciated. Our next chapter, if I can get the slide to work, there we go, brings us to the last few years, quote unquote, present day. Emerson, I'll leave it with you, please.
Well, first, it's an honor to be talking about James. We met James at Palm Beach Raceway, 2016. And James always been extremely good to the kids at the racetrack. And Emo Jr. is here now. He was 9 years old. And James always giving good advice, being part. He was working at the Palm Beach Speedway at that time. That's how we met James. He showed to us, very proud, his achievements in motocross. He showed how much he loved the sport of motorsport. He loves cars, he loves motorcycle, and he's always the time very motivated to show what he was doing. And James was, I call, a racer, a real racer, because he was extremely competitive. And he always tried to make the impossible maneuver, acrobatic maneuver, possible. And he always showed to us things that we couldn't believe. And it was always a challenge for James. He said, I can do this. Look what I'm going to do. He'll get a motorcycle, he'll do it. It looks like impossible, but he was able to do it. He had a natural ability of balance, control, throttle, braking, very talented and very passionate for the sport. He always trying to keep the human limit over the human limit that we have. It's always a challenge for James. He always showed, the different films he had, riding, wheeling the bike, racing, and he always told us about his background of racing. That was great when he was racing. And there was, a lot of motivation to him and to the young kids. He motivated the kids. He's always showing incredible, interesting for our sport. He always wanted to see when Emo was racing, where he was racing, how he was doing. We moved to Europe in June. He used to call here and say how Emo's doing, how he's doing now. We live in Italy. We left Key Biscayne in June this year to support Emo's career for the future. And James always keep in touch, trying to find him. And when he comes to the racetrack, sometimes with Jennifer, he's always a light of optimism and motivation for the whole team and for the kids. He's always smiling, coming and saying, well, Emo, you can do better, you can go to the track. I mean, he was a light on the racetrack, his personality. He was always extremely good to the kids, to not just Emo, but all the other kids racing. Even Vittoria, there is a picture with James and Vittoria. Vittoria ran Homestead. She's 10 years old now. She's here, and she loves James as well. And then we invite James to come to our Crossbridge Presbyterian Church in Key Biscayne. Billy went there next to the Yacht Club of Key Biscayne. And James started coming with Jennifer. It was very interesting because every time he come out of the service on Sunday morning, he always say, oh, Emerson, I feel so good now. I know that God loves me. And there was a new, I think was a new part in James' life that was important for him because he would found peace on the church. And I was very proud to ask James to come to the church with us. And he was very happy. Sometimes he called me from the freeway, say, Emerson, I'm coming to the service. I'll be there because it's quite far away. It's nearly 2 hours for him to drive it down on Sunday. But he always tried to come. We had a great charity event in Key Biscayne. James and Jennifer come, and that's when he met Pastor Felipe, who is the head of the Crossbridge Church of Miami, who is going to talk to us about James and when he met James. And was a memorial weekend, and was a big charity event we did with cars, with motorcycles in Key Biscayne. We raised quite a good money for a mission in Africa and in Miami. And James was part, he was very excited. And then Pastor Felipe asked me, because it was Memorial Weekend, they had the Indy 500, and on the screen of the church, inside the church, you watch Indy 500 live, and I was doing the commentary, and James was there watching Indianapolis live inside the church. And was, he always visit us in Key Biscayne, and extremely competitive. We invite James to play tennis, and my wife always beats me.
Always beat him.
My wife.
And he was so mad.
No, beat me first, and then James, let me try again to beat us. He got nervous.
And ping pong also.
And ping pong with Emo. And every time, James was always fun to be with us.
He didn't trust your scoring.
Yeah, he was trying to beat me.
But we had this very strong family friendship with James the last 5 years, and then we for sure are going to miss James a lot. The kids is going to miss James. We are going to miss James. He always happy to see James. It doesn't matter the circumstance. One day I asked him to take him to the airport. I was flying to Brazil, and we were racing in Hard Rock Stadium. And the Amos race finished very late, and James was there, and I could not miss the flight. I said, James, I knew he was going to drive fast. I said, James, can you take me to the airport? He said, yes, Emerson. I got it on his car, coming to the 95 from the turnpike. There was a big line on Sunday afternoon. And James didn't hesitate 1 second. He went on the other side. I mean, I don't know how many cars, but he passed everybody. Everybody watched. As we arrived at 95, there was a police car. And I looked at the police car and said, I was a big trouble. And James was so quick, I could not believe it. He opened the window, looked at the officer, and said, "Officer, which way is the airport?" And the officer said, "That way, 95, you go to the airport." But that was James, and I arrived on time.
He was a character.
He was incredible.
He was a
Anyway,
character.
I know James accepts.
He knew how to pick a line.
No.
Anyway, I'm sure James accept God, accept Christ, and the pastor is going to say, but we want to bless James' soul, that I'm sure he's there with God, and bless your family, Billy, everybody that's watching us. God bless you guys. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Emerson.
Emerson, can I throw in something that Billy as his father real quickly?
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to share with you that with James, as his father, he'd always be like pushing the limit, and getting the strength that in his demeanor, so to speak, with whatever he did. And so one day he goes out and he's got his arms around. It was the boxing. I can't even speak. The boxing club in West Palm Beach. He goes in, he takes one arm to the top of the bar, and he does one pull-up to his chin. He does 20 pull-ups, Emerson, 20. And the rest of the big, burly, strong boxers tried to do it. They could never keep up with James. I thought you'd get a kick out of that, because James was one of a kind.
Yes, very special. Thank you. Thank you for sharing with us.
Yes, James was so one of a kind that we all know there's many ways to memorialize somebody. But Emerson, me, and Al Garcia from the racetrack, we have been talking about how to actually preserve it and not just let a memory slowly but surely faint away. Emerson, I'll let you, since we spoke before, share your thoughts on this, and then I'll just complete it, if you don't mind.
Sure. I think it's a great, Billy had a great idea to do this memorial to continue the racing legacy from James. And then I told Billy, we are going, as soon as you have the logo, we are going to put an Amos uniform and cart here in Europe. As soon as you have the honor for Amos to race with James' legacy from now on. Be fantastic. And I'm sure this could be a good source for future champions, American drivers that can race globally and have the possibility to start racing. It's a very expensive sport. Emo and Vittorio was born in America. They are American too. And that's great to have this type of support for young people. Congratulations, Billy, that you have this idea. And I support 100%.
Thank you. So yes, indeed, over the coming months, we'll work to formalize the structure and all of that. But at the end of the day, as Emerson just said, the idea is to get his name with the logo visible on uniforms and cars, and also eventually to be able to have a program so that future talent will be able to race under his moniker, James Holmberg Memorial, something like that. Okay, so stand by, guys. I'm sorry I've lost my voice. You can imagine why. Details will come to you by email once it's all set up. Thank you. Pastor Felipe, could you, are you with us right now? Because I didn't specifically recall. Excellent, perfect, thank you. I knew you were, but I just wanted to, your cue, please. Thank you so much.
Well, may the grace and peace of God be with you all. I had the privilege of meeting James in the later years through Emerson and Hosanna, who have introduced James to Crossbridge Church in Key Biscayne. And at a couple occasions, I had the opportunity to have conversations with him because of our mutual friend in Emerson. We talked about the love of sports. He shared that he loved fighting. I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I've been a world champion in Jiu-Jitsu as well. And so we talked a little bit about fighting. I know the fighters. I trained with some of those to this day. And he's a very energetic gentleman. And I feel blessed to have met him. Don't know him with a depth that most of you know. But I know that he is known by the Father, our Heavenly Father, and he is with him today. And so my words to the family specifically today, and to all of those of you who love them and our friends, is a word of comfort. And I'd like to share today, if you give me the opportunity, from a book of the Bible. It's in the New Testament, written by the Apostle Paul. It's a letter that he wrote to a church in the region of Macedonia. And the title of the letter is 1 Thessalonians. And I want to read just one very quick verse from chapter 4. It's 1 Thessalonians 4, verse 13. And if you want to take notes of that, maybe you can read it later. It's a verse that always brings a lot of comfort, especially in the context of loss, of great loss. But Paul writes this. He says, but we do not want you to be uninformed, brothers, about those who are asleep, that you may not grieve as the others who do not have no hope. Let me read that again. But we do not want you to be uninformed, brothers, about those who are asleep, that you may not grieve as others who have no hope. One of the beautiful things about the Christian faith is that it offers tremendous hope in the context of death and loss. And the reason for that is basically twofold. The first one is that Christians believe, Jesus taught about that as well, that death is not the end. In fact, I don't know if you remember when I first or the second time I read the verse, but he says, I don't want you to be uninformed about those who are asleep. They're not gone, they're asleep. And the idea is that one day there will be an opportunity for a re-encounter. Death is part of life. All of us one day will unfortunately die. But the Christian faith promises that we can re-encounter those who we have lost in this life. And that is a source of great. The second reason why we can grieve with hope during this season, during this moment that we're going through, is that the faith teaches that death has been defeated. The same Apostle Paul that wrote this letter, 1 Thessalonians, writes to the Corinthians in 1 Corinthians 15. And he talks about the fact that by raising from the dead, by having Jesus raised from the dead, we have a guarantee that death has no longer power over us. Yes, we will die, but it's not the absolute end. In fact, the Apostle Paul actually mocks death. He says, "Oh, death, where is your sting?" There is a poet, a Christian poet that I love very much. His name is George Herbert. And there's a poem in which he says a very beautiful line. He says, "Death used to be an executioner, but because of Christ, death has been turned into a gardener." In other words, death just pushes us to our ultimate potential. In this life, we have all sorts of limitations. We have physical limitations and psychological limitations. But without those limitations, we are thrown into our ultimate potential. And, Christians believe that one day Jesus will return and he will restore all things, and death will be completely eradicated. And the Bible says in the book of Psalms, which is in the Old Testament, if you're Jewish, you're probably familiar with the Psalm that says that when that day comes, the trees of the forest will sing for joy. Even the trees will clap their hands and sing for joy. because they will be reawakened to their ultimate potential, right? So if trees will be able to sing for joy, how much more will us be able to be and to do? You know, I love to hear, you know, Jennifer and Emerson talk about, you know, that daredevil type of personality in James, of pushing the limits with his body and you know, with the gifts that he had. He's doing flips in heaven, and he's doing even more amazing things than you guys were able to do while he was alive. So let me comfort you today with that, you know, we have an opportunity today to grieve. It's healthy that we grieve. Grieving is part of healing, but that we do so with hope, because death is not the end, and ultimately death has been defeated. May the grace of God be with you, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Thank you, Pastor Assis. Beautiful words, very, very telling. Indeed, perfectly said to wrap up and think about James's James Memorial in heaven right now. Sorry, I'm just a bit taken. So on the next slide, Eleonore and Olivia have, with the guidance of their family in France, chosen a poem to read. And I'd like to highlight, before you hear it, the strong link between that and the comment you just made insofar as death pushing us to reach our utmost potential. So with that, since I've completely lost my voice, I'm going to pass it over to the girls. Go ahead.
The Train of Life by Jean d'Emerson. Life is like a journey on a train. People boarding and departing at different stations. Sometimes facing detours and even accidents that can happen along the way.
At birth, we boarded the train and met our parents, our siblings, our grandparents, our aunts and uncles, and our cousins. We believed they would always travel by our side. However, at some station, they will step off the train, leaving us on this journey alone.
As time goes by, others will board the train, siblings, friends, true loves, and children. Many will step down, and some will leave a permanent vacuum.
This train ride will be full of joy, sorrow, expectations, hellos and goodbyes, as well as farewells.
Success arguably consists of having great relationships with all the passengers, requiring that we give the best of ourselves throughout the journey.
As we don't know at which station we will step down, we must live each day in the best way possible, to love, forgive, and offer the best of who we are.
When the time comes for us to step down and leave our seat empty, we should leave behind beautiful memories for those who will continue to travel on the train of life.
Thank you, James, for leaving us fun memories of time with you during visits and on video calls. We will miss you.
Thank you, girls. Thank you so much.
Bill, this is your dad. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to say something before we wrap up, so to speak? I mean, any thoughts?
Sure hope so. So now's the time to do so, guys. Go ahead, please do.
I'll just say something real quick. Well, first of all, I just want to say my condolences to you guys, to all of you. You know, I can feel your pain. It's very, very sad. And I always admired James for his fearless nature and his really great sense of humor and larger than life personality. I remember the first time I met him actually was freshman year at Georgetown, and he came up to visit, and I remember just like we brought him to a party, and like everyone thought he was a freshman in college too, because he was so mature at 14. And So, and he was just cracking jokes, and like people like you wouldn't have, and he was physically like a big guy. So like even at 14, like he came across much older. But most importantly, I just remember his wonderful sense of humor, and like a couple of you mentioned, just that sort of like that smile, that energy, that smile, and just full of passion for life and living it to the fullest. So I really admire that, and I always I always think about him, like when I personally need to be reminded of living life to the fullest, I do think of him a lot. So he's always going to be with us, and he'll, and I'm here for you guys if you ever want to talk. Okay, I'll now pass on to the next person.
Thanks, John. Excellent words. I'd like to pass to Derek, please. Derek, a dear, dear, dear friend of James during the high school years.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you for letting me speak. James was one of my best friends in the world, one of my best friends I've ever had, and I feel just tremendously sad for his loss, for his family, because for a long time his family felt like my family, and James was invited into my house the same way I was invited into his. So we hadn't talked in a really long time, and I was feeling a lot of regret for a while, and I had talked to some people who kind of talked me away from those feelings. And one of the things that helped me with that was when I talked to his girlfriend Jennifer, who everyone heard from before, and she shared with me that James spoke about all his friends constantly, and apparently he had even mentioned my name to her, who I had never met until that call. He mentioned my name up to maybe a week or so before he had passed. And when I heard that, everything sort of made sense about this whole tragedy. Is that if you worry about the things that you didn't do, you're probably wasting more time when you could have been just thinking about all the incredible, indelible memories that you may have had with the person. So I think that was a very sincere and special healing moment. And Mr. Holmberg and Mrs. Holmberg and Billy, I can't tell you exactly how I want to express my condolences to you, but I just want you to know that I think about you, every day that this has happened, and I hope to keep in touch with you guys, because you really are special. So thank you for the time.
We definitely will, Derek. Thank you so much. Thank you. The floor is open to whoever else will speak, please.
If I could jump in, it's TJ Miro. I was a friend of James's in high school, and just want to pass my condolences to family and friends out there that had the fortunate opportunity to spend time with him and know him. He was a person unlike any other, and a very loyal friend. And if you were on his team, you were there for life. And just thankful that I had the opportunity to know him. He taught me how to ride a dirt bike, and he always pushed me when we were hanging out, to do things, push the boundaries. So just wanted to say my condolences to everybody.
Thank you.
I don't know. Hey, Billy, can you?
The floor is yours. The floor is yours,
Can you hear
Carrie.
me?
Yep, we
Okay.
certainly can.
Sure. I'm Kerry Holmberg. I'm James's uncle. And about 12 years ago, James came to live with us for a while. And I have such great memories of that time. And when he came here, his sense of humor all the time was a constant source for laughter for our entire family. And I remember he said, look, I want to go to this 12-step farm that we located down in Georgia. And I said, well, I'll look into this. And so we looked into it, and it was a work farm, a 12-step farm. And I said, Billy, Billy, I said, James, you're going to be the only white person there. This is all black men that are out of prisons and all this working there. So he told me the story of where when he was one time in a rehab and his roommate was Michael Tyson. And he said his dilemma was that he was going to be playing ping pong with him every day. And his dilemma was, do I try to win or do I try to lose? If you lose to Mike Tyson, it could be tough. So a good friend of mine, Harry Goodhart, he and I went down with James to this farm. We went down there, and it was pretty rough looking. And I said, James, I don't know if we should leave here or not. And he said, well, I'll give it a try. So I asked when we could come back, and they said, give us a couple weeks and come back and visit. So I go, oh my gosh, my whole way back, I'm going, I don't know what's going to happen. So we come back in 2 weeks, and James had every one of these guys as his buddy, and he was loved by everyone there. And the sense of humor and the camaraderie, he fit right in with all these guys, and it was really unbelievable. I don't know many people who could do that, but they just loved him. And anyway, I thought that was very special because his ability to really get along with people, and I'm telling you, that sense of humor, my gosh, he used to take little Rebecca, my youngest daughter, home pick her up from school, and she talked about how he just had her laughing all the time. So anyway, Bill and Francis, I'm just so sorry for you guys, but I just want to let you know that we loved him very much, and he was a wonderful person. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gary. As we continue, I just encourage everyone to mute their microphones so we can avoid the noise that makes it difficult to hear the speaker. That's all.
Billy?
The floor is open to others,
Can
please.
you see me, Billy? It's Roey Diefendorf.
Hi, Roey. Yes, absolutely.
Well, listen,
You're there.
Thank you
buddy.
for setting this call up. For me, this has been just answered prayer. And Emerson, thanks for reaching out to James and bringing him in. Pastor, thanks for telling us the story. But wind the clock back probably, when he was very young. I remember one time we were over at your parents' house, and James and I were upstairs trying to get in some trouble. I found a blowgun he had, and he and I took firecrackers, put them in the end of the blowgun, and we're shooting all of the other parents from the Creek Club from down the stairs. And so finally we got stripped of our blowgun by his dad, I think. But he was on the edge. But the other thing I'll say is that all through this, the love that he had for life was tremendous, and that was his asset. And so I did tell him about how God loved him and shared that. In fact, he actually came out, I think, to we had some Young Life things, but over all these years, as I'd talk to his dad, and I'd say, how's James? And he'd give me an update. My wife and I, we continued to pray over and over all these years, and to hear the story now and sort of the ending and the celebration that, death didn't defeat James. James lives on, and, I'll get to see him and catch up and hear all the stories, but all of these things that I hear about his laughter and his humor and how a room would light up, right, when he walked in. So thank you all for being the part of the tapestry of his life. Cookie, Billy, I know the loss, but boy, you brought a great kid in to really, bring a whole new level to everyone else that's known him. So thank you. Thanks for putting this together, young Bill. Thanks.
Roey, thank you so much. That was wonderful.
Billy?
Hi, Mary.
Hey, can I say something?
The floor is yours, naturally.
I don't have anything written or anything really to say. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody that's here, that came, that spoke, that had all these wonderful stories about my brother. I don't have a particular story to talk about. I just I just wanted to say that I'm gonna miss him terribly, and I really did enjoy hearing everybody speak such kind, wonderful words about him. Pretty much nailed how he is and his personality. Just loving life, and a happy, funny, really wonderful guy that was just excited about life. So yeah, I really don't have much to say. It's a little,
You said everything you needed to say right there. That was excellent, Mary. Thank you.
I'm glad everyone is.
Mary, that was very nice of you, Mary. That was very sweet.
Thanks, Daddy.
Can't wait to hear from you, sweetie.
TC, your audio is on. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, JC.
JC, my apologies. Hello? Well, if not, I'm going to mute him.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Billy, I'll say a few words.
Thurston, go for it.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know me on this call, I'm Thurston. I'm a lifelong friend of Billy's and James's and the whole Holmberg family. And well, John, first of all, the story that you said, I remember that story. I remember you telling me that. Hello?
Hold on. JC, someone else is speaking, and we're doing a call. So if you want to give remarks, please do.
I'll wait if you want to say something. JC, do you want to say something?
I think he's at the top of the mountain. Am I right? He's at the top of the mountain. It's windy.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
Sorry, I'm just stopping that. Okay, Thurston, go ahead, please.
I'll tell you all a story about James. I mean, we all have all kinds of stories, but I'll tell you one that I remember very well. This is back when he was in college. His first college that he went to, at least that I know of, was Lynchburg College, which is also where I went to college. Exactly. And so I drove him down for orientation in the middle of the summer. So there was nobody there except for this maybe 200, 250 kids and James. And so I said to him, James, off you go to orientation. I'm going to go hang out at my fraternity house. So if you meet anybody, feel free to bring them by the house when you're all done with orientation. And knowing James for my entire life, I for a minute forgot who I was talking to. So I would say about maybe 4 or 5 hours later, as the evening progressed, I look across the college campus and there's this massive wall or some mob or blob of kids walking towards my direction. Of course, James is right in front of that huge mass of kids, is leading the charge over towards our fraternity house. And the rest of that night, of course, was very hazy. But I do remember asking one person, next to me, I said, so Brian, another person at my fraternity who was there, I said, what do you think of James? And his only remark was, Thurston, you've told me all kinds of stories about James over the years, and he exceeds all expectations. And then one more person said, James seems to be the kind of person who, wherever he is, that's the place to be. And that made me think for a while, and I thought that is exactly how James is, and that's always how I've seen him. In any situation, wherever we were, whatever kind of adventures that we got involved in, that it didn't really matter to James. And I don't know whether it was intentional or calculated or not. He just, he made everything around him so wonderful because of his presence. Well, I shouldn't say wonderful, sometimes horrifying, but it was elevated to such a point of extreme. And, Mike, you said before about how you thought about James 2 weeks ago and you thought about him for a long time. I have to say that, I think everyone on this call would agree that that's how all of us think of James. We can't just think of him for a minute. We have to think, oh my God, it was so funny, or he made me so mad, or whatever it was. You just can't stop thinking about him. And when I think about him, whenever I have thought about him and ever moving forward, that's exactly how it's going to be. I'll think about him for a long time.
I still find myself very fortunate to be on his good side.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, I'm saying the same thing that everyone else here is saying, that he will not be forgotten by any of us, and hopefully we will all tell stories to our children and those about James, and that memory can live on.
Yes, James always stood out, and Thurston, your remarks were the perfect cue for me to switch to this picture here. I'm not going to comment on all the faces that are here, but many of you see yourselves. And indeed, there he is. He's always standing out, and you'll never forget it. Good old James. I'll just go back because this will be a chance for others who would like to speak, who might be in these photos as well. Tate, would you like to say a few words?
Billy, he might be on mute, but I'll speak.
No, you just unmute yourself. Everybody can control them.
Did you say Dave?
I didn't really have a story either, but I just wanted to say I wanted to give my condolences to the members. I haven't seen James for 20 years, and basically just keep picturing him smashing that can on his head, that beer can, and they said that's no problem. And that's one of the memories I remember when we were on a sailing trip 20 years ago for about a week with Billy and my mother.
It's easy to find James. He's the only one without a shirt. He loved moving to Florida because he learned he could just live without a shirt on every day.
Right. So yeah, that was basically my the trip with him, and he was just like full energy and just like, basically like a bull, but just friendly, So that's about all I had to say.
This is Townsend, Tate's brother, and also I'm a longtime friend of the Holmbergs. And Mr. and Mrs. Holmberg, I just don't know what to say, but you're a big part of my family, and I appreciate all the beautiful moments we had together out in Long Island. And James came on this sailing trip that Tate just alluded to in the British Virgin Islands. And we have a picture there. If you look at the screen, you can see him there, and he has his shirt off, and he's always in the moment, and he brings everyone alive, and he's present. And there's very few people that are present and in the moment and really enjoying life. And yes, James took things to extreme, but in a good way. And he brings us all a lot more life. And you can't believe it, but during COVID, I was out in Long Island, out in the Hamptons, and I thought to myself, if James could do 20 pull-ups, then I can try and do one. So all summer, I was hanging from a tree, not able to do one. And then about, 4 weeks in, with James in my mind, I thought I can do one. And now, as of this morning, I could do 20. And I had Henry on the bar this morning saying, if James Holmberg can do 20 pull-ups, just like that, and apparently with one arm, according to Mr. Holmberg, which is unbelievable, then we can do it. But that kind of sums things up, that James is an inspiration, and we're still keeping him alive in our life. And I always enjoyed every moment, whether it's throwing a football or going into the woods with James, and enjoyed Mary's present as well. Hi, Mary. And had so much fun with you too. And Billy's a part of my life, and Billy, because of your connection with James, it even makes it more dear to me. And the Holmbergs, thanks again for treating us all so well in Long Island. And James will always be in all of our hearts, and we thank you so much. And his legacy will carry on, and we love you all. And I don't know what else to say except that I love you, and I'm very sorry.
Thank you, Townsend.
Billy, is there any Tullocks that want to chat, make any comments, or
Well,
they
the microphone
busy?
is open, so if anybody would like to, whoever would like to speak next, you're welcome to. I know Hillary and Margaret are on the call. I know that.
or maybe they had to drop for some reason. So I'll let you run with what you think are the next steps. How's that?
We're here, Billy and
Go
Bill,
ahead. Go
and
ahead.
we're here with Mom and Jeff and Marshall and Hillary and Matt, and we send all our love to you.
Hi everyone, this is Hillary Tulloch. I'm first cousins with Bill, and Matt's here. We're calling in from Colorado. It's snowing, and thank you so much for doing all this. This is so wonderful to hear all of these stories and keep the memories alive. So sending all our love to all of you, and thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for your remarks. Thank you for being there with us. Thank you.
Hey,
Hi,
Billy.
everybody. Oh.
Geronimo, please. Hey,
Hey.
buddy. Wow, long time no see.
Wait.
You lost a ponytail, buddy.
Way too long. And yeah, been probably 15 years since I spoke to James. And hearing the news, it was a huge, huge blow. And so Billy, Mr. and Mrs. Holmberg, Jennifer, my condolences. Words cannot express. But along those lines, James just brought a levity to everything and everywhere he went. And I was in a really bad garage band with James. We were really bad, and James was so good. And he could just play anything by ear.
I didn't know the dirt bike was a musical instrument.
Exactly. He was multi-talented, and I think that was one of the things about James that was so incredible. He could talk to anybody about anything. And a perfect example of this is the house that we used to practice at. Mr. Giambalvo had a 75th anniversary Porsche 911 Speedster. Very unique car, very rare, expensive Porsche. And James knew more about that car than Mr. Giambalvo did. And he could talk to him about it. Yep. He could talk to him about it for hours. But then James just left an impact on everybody's life. That same family, Pat's younger brother, Mark, started expressing an interest in like motorsport a little bit. And James just took to him and talked to him about working on motors. And Mark developed a career in building custom hot rods. And you could just see that the point of impact that James had on that individual's life. And he was two sides of the same coin, James. And I think that's why everybody could relate to him. He was so unjudgmental. He let you show up as you are, with all of your flaws, with all of your perfections. And the same person who could be so loving and kind to animals and have such a great relationship with young children would also be the one who had me on the back of his dirt bike with the Laurel Hollow police chasing all over Laurel Hollow after us. And then being able to go down 25A, come back up that hill behind the Holmberg's house, rip it into the garage, close the garage door, and then we just walk inside and sit in the kitchen and drink lemonade while the police are slowly rolling by, knowing that we're in there, but there's nothing they can do. So the two sides of the same coin, that dichotomy, James allowed you to show up as who you were, and it's such a rarity, and it's going to be sorely missed. So again, Mr. and Mrs. Holmberg and Billy, thank you for putting this on. Jennifer, everybody, so sorry for the loss. Thank you.
Thank you, Geronimo. Much appreciated. Excellent words. I still, I can expand to one story. So we're both thinking of one particular road off Route 25A that went up to our house, which on the one hand was definitely the quick getaway from the police racing on the highway. It was also a place where James and I, at one point, we procured some BB guns and had the brilliant idea of start picking off some cars. Yep, we did it. Yep, call me stupid, I know. That's what happens when you're young. And yeah, that street saved us and also got us in trouble as well. But Indeed. Great days. Thanks, Geronimo. Thanks for those great remarks.
We did a water balloon launcher there at one point in time.
That was definitely safer and smarter than BB guns. We actually picked off one car. The guy got out of his car. He was furious. He came charging after us, but my dad put things to rest. He was able to settle that situation. I still remember that, almost like yesterday. The open mic guys, the floor is yours. Anybody else like to speak, they're welcome to.
I'll say something.
Hi, Tina.
Hi, great. Well, I'm Tina Dolan, and I'm Cookie's cousin. And I just wanted to say, years ago, when I guess maybe I was in my early 30s, Cookie's parents, Roger and Terry Williams, pretty much adopted me and my husband and then my little baby. And so we were introduced to those, maybe some of you had been there, those extensive Christmas dinner celebrations where it seems like there were 20 people lined up in the dining room to have, we had on we did the crackers and the hats and all that. And my daughter and I, when she was older, would always wonder, like, who is James going to bring tonight? Or what's he going to do? Or and who is Billy's girlfriend? What's happening with them? So I think out of those dinner parties, we were supposed to be, somewhat gracious and converse well. And instead, we just had our eyes glued to Billy and James, and they never disappointed us. There was always something going on. And I also wanted to say, Billy, what a wonderful job you've done today. This is one of the loveliest, or the loveliest memorials I've attended. So well organized and so nice to hear everybody and hear tales of James outside of the James at the dinner parties and all. So, and Cookie and Bill, I can't, I don't know. Sorry, I'm not sure what to say, but anyway, I'm sure, I guess I don't know what to say, except I'm just heartbroken as you are. So that's it.
Thank you, Tina. Well, as we all know, it's one thing to put together a Zoom. It's another to have great stories, kind words, and insight, because not everybody was part of the various chapters of James's life. There was one person who was going to be with us called Billy O'Keefe, who was going to speak about James's days in college. Unfortunately, Billy at the last minute had a family engagement, as he said, he couldn't avoid. Very unexpected. It would have been nice to hear about James's college years from Billy O'Keefe, but he couldn't do so. But it's the diversity of stories across the different chapters of James's life that helps make a Zoom like this memorable. So thank you. Once again, open mic, the floor is open to
Billy,
others.
hi, this is Tina's brother, Dennis.
Hi,
I'm
Dennis.
glad to be with you. One memory has always stuck with me. It was 20-some years ago, and I said, well, we should have a family reunion. So I live in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. So we got together in Easton, Maryland, a lovely place called the Tidewater Inn. And Roger and Terry were there, Tina was there, Erica, John, I was there, our brother Stevie was there, Billy was there, Erica. I mean, it was just a nice family group. And we had dinner in the afternoon. We'd go and do an outing. We had a tennis tournament. But that Saturday night dinner, they had music in the dining room. It was beautiful. And, you're into each other for a couple of days. You need some livening up. James was the perfect MC. He got everyone laughing and having fun. And that was just the nicest family getaway weekend that I can just, with our family, that I can remember. So God bless you all, and Mary, and Billy, and Bill, and Francis, Seville, the girls, everything. I'm just so sorry. Love you guys. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Dennis.
Hey, Billy, it's Sandy Goldberg. Just wanted to give my condolences. I was a good friend of James in high school, and just a selfless guy, always out there for all his friends. Was a real good guy and really going to be missed. So just want to give my condolences and give my deepest sympathies to everyone.
Very kind of you. Thank you.
Hey, Billy, this is Chris Heim, another one of James's high school buddies. Deepest condolences to you and the entire family. James is, as we all know, one of those people who leaves a mark. I've got incredible memories, and the one that just I don't know if everyone knows about the Jeep Grand Cherokee that James had in high school.
Which
I
one?
don't know if the suspension was broken or whatnot, but that thing handled like it was on rails, and James, yeah, he would scare the crap out of everyone in that thing.
Yeah.
He would look at you and say, "Come on," and you're going into a corner and you're thinking at this speed, this car is going to flip. And obviously James would never put anyone that he cared about in harm's way. And I just remember my heart racing and him kind of just having a little chuckle at his buddy's expense. And I have a passion for motorsports, and I ride bikes because of James. So I know I'm not the only one of his friends that rides bikes because of him. So,
well, Chris, this is James's dad, and I can tell you, I remember that red Jeep that we're talking about, and he went into about a 8 to 12 inch high solid concrete that completely damaged the underside of the Jeep. I said, James, how could you possibly do that? He says, Dad, you know I love machines. He said, I'm not going to give it up. I'm not going to give up that, I can't succeed with this Jeep. I'll find a way. And lo and behold, he took it to, some fix-it place and did his thing. And, to map into what you say, you just never know with James what you're going to get.
Exactly. Again, my deepest condolences. His memory will live on with all of us for sure.
Open mic once again, if anyone else would like to share.
Hey, Bill, it's Chris Hogan. I'd like to say a few words if you don't mind.
The floor is yours, Chris.
Thank you. As you can see, I'm with Fales as well.
We grew up with James. I mean, I've known James my whole life. He's been one of my best friends my whole life. Like everyone said, everyone on here knows James. He's got a huge heart, extremely loyal. He's one of a kind. They broke the mold when they made James. He's freakishly strong, and just somebody you wanted to have on your side. Whether you were hurting from a personal loss, he was there for you, or whether he was there sticking up for you, and he just always, if you were on his side, you were on his side, and that was it. Someone else said something to that effect, but once you were in, James was in your corner, he was in your corner for life. And I mean, good times, bad times, I've shared them all with James, and he was just a fantastic guy, and he's going to be sorely missed.
So my condolences to the family. For those of you that don't know, I grew up right around the corner from James. And I remember the first day I met James like it was yesterday. I grew up next to West Side School where we went to elementary school, and I heard a vehicle in the school, and I saw a yellow blur going by, and I'm like, looks like a kid on a dirt bike. And I ran through the woods, and I think I was about 12 or 13 years old, and there was James on his DS-80. He saw me standing there in the corner watching him, and I was completely jealous. And he comes around, he does a wheelie right next to me and puts the front wheel down, shuts the bike off, and introduces himself. He's like, how you doing? I'm James Holmberg. It's nice to meet you. And then he offers me to ride his bike, and that was it. I was bit from that. I begged my dad for a dirt bike until he got me one, annoyed him that much. And I still ride today. And James he lit that fire in me, that motorsports fire. And he was just a real personable person. Like I said, he just pulled right up and introduced himself and offered me to ride his bike, which a lot of people would never do. And James is going to be sorely missed, and my condolences. And thank you to the family for all the wonderful memories I've had at your house, because I spent a lot of time at the Holmberg's house growing up. It was just a short walk. I remember first time James brought Wendell over to my house, Wendell jumped right in the pool. A couple of days later, I called James. I'm like, James, I think your dog was swimming in my pool. He's like, oh, no, don't worry about it. He knows his way home. He'll come home. We didn't live that close, So James is just wonderful. He's going to be so missed. My condolences again to the family, everyone.
Yeah, Mr. and Mrs. Holmberg, Mary, Billy family. I haven't met you guys, but please, my condolences a lot. We lost Olivia.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Gus. Those are great stories. Yes, I mean, indeed, the day would not be complete without listening to James on his dirt bike, at least doing a wheelie, if not doing donuts on that street on the way to West Side or back. That's for sure. And the day he moved to Florida was the day that the Laurel Hollow police were finally able to relax just a little bit. Any other stories, guys? I think we'll keep going for another 10 minutes or so. I remind you that we have the website page all set up, and I strongly encourage everybody to put stories in because, of course, this video will be posted on that site, so it lives on forever. But stories and words, that matters as well. So I encourage you guys to put up stories. Stories about a chapter as long or as short as you want, okay? And let's keep going for another 10 minutes or so. I mean, just as a guideline. Open mic, the floor is open again. Does anybody else have any other comments that they'd like to share before we wrap up?
I'm back again, but this time without Grip Billy. I know how difficult this has been. Under the circumstances alone are challenging, and we've had a couple of conversations and emails. It's remarkable what you've put together, and without sharing too much information of our conversations, you made a point that it's very important to get everybody together quickly, and may it be digitally, but do it quickly in order to establish what you've established. Again, bravo to you. I know it's been something else, otherworldly, but you did a great job. And
Thank you, Michael. But I stand by what I said before, which we all agree, which is the memorial is not a memorial without the rich, deep perspectives and stories and positive things to say. So once again, you had great remarks earlier. Thank you again.
Sure.
Hi, I'm Jennifer's sister, Samantha. I just want to say my sister, she, as the oldest of 5 kids, she's always looked to make the rest of us happy. So when James came into her life, we all saw a joy in her that we had never seen before. And I am so grateful that she had that time with him, and memories that will live on forever with her. We used to joke because they were constantly on the phone. We were like, what could you possibly say for that much? But Jennifer was always hysterically laughing. And that means so much to me to hear that laugh, because there were times when she wasn't laughing like that. And I will definitely miss hearing her laughing at whatever stories of antics he got through during the day. And, the conversations that I would have with him sometimes about nothing. And I'm very grateful that he brought such joy to my sister and so many people.
It's very kind. Very, very kind. We won't forget him, I can assure you that.
Hey, just want to say, first, I love you guys so much, and I gotta get. I have to go, but I just wanted to say, please reach out. I'm here for you guys. I love you so much, and James is a wonderful soul, and I really believe that he's in heaven and watching over us, and he'll be always in my heart and in your hearts, and really is a wonderful person to have in our lives. And I love you guys.
Thank you, John. Thank you. So once again, as I had mentioned, I encourage everyone to add stories on the website. Of course, this video will be posted as well. And when there's more details on the memorial and in specific ways, we'll let you know by email, and there's ways for you to follow that story going forward, okay?
When you say posted, Bill, does it have a specific designation that's easier for people to find, or is it, change a bit?
Nothing's changed. I will resend the website link where, which I sent weeks ago, which is where the memorial content is posted. So it's.
Yeah, we have it.
Yeah. Very good. Great. Well, if there's no other further stories or comments that people would like to make, thank you once again to all those who shared. For those who didn't, there's absolutely no obligation to speak per se. We clearly know that James is in your thoughts. And once again, his memory will continue, and that's what matters.
Great job, Billy. Very good job.
With pleasure.
Yeah.
I'm just following best practice, as I said. There's nothing unique and original. What's unique and original is the stories that people are bringing here. And again, the stories that everybody was able to bring to life to celebrate and cherish his life. I wish I had my voice in better condition. Thank you again, guys.
Thanks, Billy.
Thanks, guys. Bye now.
Bye.
Thank you, Billy.
Please.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.